Welcome to the Murali End. My name's Mark Machado. It's the end of the calendar year, as you probably have realised, because it is December. We are doing our kind of nominations for various awards we'd like to give out. We're gonna tell you who the nominees are for a certain award, and in the comment section, you're invited to tell us what you think. Have we got it right? Have we got it wrong? Who should be included? And who do you think is, for each of the categories, the overall winner? We've got awards for the men's and for the women's teams in each format. Obviously, there's no women's test nominees because sadly, no one wants to play a test match with us. We've also got Newcomer of the Year and overall player of the year. Let me introduce your panel. I'm Mark Machado. I'm joined by Sri Lanka's #1 journalist, Estelle Vasu-Devon, who joins us from Sri Lanka. I'm joined by the Professor of Cricketology, Dominic Machado, and everyone's favourite Sri Lankan cricket historian, Nick Brooks, who joins us from Jamaica, where he is holidaying. Don't worry, he's not about to write a book about the history of Sabina Park, though. If he did, we'd all love it. Guys, let's jump straight into it. Before I do that, quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe, hit the follow, tell your friends, and of course, leave your comment. Right, we'll just kind of do it, go round and tell you who the nominees are for each award. The first one we're going to talk about today is Men's Test Player of the Year. As the nominees... Estelle, do you want to give us who your kind of nominee for this would be?
Yeah, I think this guy probably will win it. It's Kamindu Mendes. He's had a fabulous year in Test cricket. Unfortunately, didn't debut this year, so he doesn't quite qualify for a Newcomer of the Year. But playing, becoming basically the mainstay of that Sri Lankan batting lineup throughout the year, scoring more than 1,000 runs. He's been fantastic, right? He's got runs in Bangladesh, twin hundreds in Bangladesh, got runs in England as well. Unfortunately, that kind of failure in South Africa has brought his average down to just 74. It was hovering in the 90s. But I think, he's pretty much been like at the top of his game throughout the year. So he would be one of our nominees for that award of Test Player of the Year.
Nick, who do you want to talk to? One of us, another one of the nominees?
Yeah, I'll throw Asif Fernando's name into the hat. He's probably missing that marquee performance. I was actually really surprised looking back on the numbers that Vishwa has a better average and strike rate across 2024. But I think the key with Asif is just that he's never stopped bowling, right? The guy seems to wake up, jump out of bed straight into his bowling action and just bowl all day long. Right at the start of this year, which feels like a million years ago, I was at the SSC when Sri Lanka beat Afghanistan, and I think he played a really crucial role in that victory by just his tirelessness. He's such a workhorse. When the ball gets old, he can reverse swing it. He can throw in bounces. He's really dangerous with the new ball. The kind of spearhead around which Sri Lanka's seam attack, I think, is built. And yeah, another really good year for Asif Fernando.
Dom, third nominee?
Third nominee is, as they call him, Big Papi. Prabhat Jayasuriya. That is half the reason for the nomination. It's an awesome part just listening to Kusal Mendes call out Prabhat Jayasuriya. But he has been really, really good at home. He has been their match winner at home. They only played 3 matches. He took in Sri Lanka. He took 26 wickets at an average of 21.5. He has a good economy of 2.87. He had 3 5-wicket hauls. In terms of coming to Sri Lanka, the first player that teams will look to in terms of who do you have to figure out, it's Prabhat. And he's starting to put together good performances overseas as well. That 5-for in Port Elizabeth was a really, really good performance. And he played a really good holding role as well in England, I thought. Tougher conditions, and he'll still have to get better to become a world-class or sort of top-level spinner. But at home, he's a monster, and people are worried about trying to run through him.
And the fourth nominee for Men's Test Player of the Year is Laharu Kumara. I think he's kind of finally realised some of the promise that we've seen over the last few years. He's become a real handful for batters all over the world now. In fact, what's quite unusual with him, and I suppose to a degree, a lot of other some of our other fast bowlers, is that he comes to his own away from home. Right, he's the kind of the counter almost to Prabhath. His spell at the Oval, where he just tore through England's middle order. I mean, I'll never forget that till the day I die. You get Lauru angry, and well, the batters are going to see their bails come off soon enough. Guys, should we quickly move on to ODI men's ODI Player of the Year? Estelle, do you want to give us who your nominee is for this?
Yeah, I'll have Pathum Nisanka as my one for this award. I think we've spoken about his double hundred in one of the previous episodes. Unprecedented from a Sri Lankan. He's also had 2 other hundreds during the year, 12 matches, going at 63, and scoring at faster than a runner ball. I think that's the key metric for him in ODI cricket, because as you guys know, there was always that conversation about whether he scores too slowly or whether he takes too much time to get going. But I feel like this year he's really built on that reputation as being a good limited overs cricketer. So I think he will be front runner to win this award as well, because he's had a really good year in ODI cricket.
Nick, who's your nominee for this?
Yeah, I think Charith deserves a shout out here. Another really good year where he's kind of enhanced his claim to be the world's premier number 5 batter, right? He's averaged a shade over 50, striking just under 100. He's got 450s and a ton. And he's also, on these pitches, become, well, the Premadasa destroyer, would we call him? I think he's got 10 wickets across the course of the year. He's gone under 5s. And so given the kind of pitches that Sri Lanka play on at home, he's a useful cog in that attack. So yeah, Charith, who's had a good year.
Dom, who's your nominee?
My nominee here is Mahesh Deekshana. The stats don't particularly flatter him. He's taken 15 wickets at 26.4, which is not bad, but he's bowled at an economy of 4.3, and they've started reusing him as an opening bowler, and he has been almost unplayable in that role. He's bowling in the high 90s, low hundreds, and getting turned. He looks a really, really formidable bowler. And right now, he is the only Sri Lankan bowler in the top 10 in ODI bowling. I think he's a guy who teams worry about and think about when you go into the match. How are we going to negotiate Deekshana's spell? And he's a player, I think last year we thought, okay, maybe has he leveled off, but he's really taken his game to new heights this year. And we want to shout him out for that outstanding performance and for continually improving and getting better.
My nominee, or the 4th nominee for Men's ODI Player of the Year, will be Kusal Mendes. He's had quite a phenomenal season. He's going to, or calendar year, though, of course, there is the games against New Zealand to come. So the averages can change, but thus far he's averaged 53 this season. He's been not out 3 times and he's scored 743 runs, which is quite an incredible amount of runs to accumulate. I mean, some of his detractors, and let's be honest, there's quite a few, will argue that actually this is a year where Sri Lanka haven't played any meaningful ODIs. But, I mean, he can only ever play the teams in front of him and the situation in front of him. And he's done well. And he's stepped up. And he's looking better than he has done ever before, which is really good to see. Let's move now to men's T20s. Just a quick reminder. We are just going through the nominees. Can you let us know in the comments below who you think should be the Test Player of the Year, the ODI Player of the Year, the Men's T20 Player of the Year, all these various awards. Tell us who you think, and also any people who should be on the list who we haven't mentioned. Let's get this conversation going in down below in the comments section. Estelle, do you want to give us your nominee for Men's T20 Player of the Year?
Yeah, I'm going with Matisha Patirana. I think he's had another really good year in international cricket. He's got 4 for 24 as his best bowling performance, 28 wickets in 15 innings, averaging 13 and striking at 10.3. So he's been Sri Lanka's kind of, key wicket taker. His numbers are incredibly special. Like, we don't even have like the real impact numbers, right? That despite that, if you look at it, he's just had a really good year. Unfortunately, he has the team, the batting hasn't really given him an opportunity to be that kind of match winner, I would say, because they haven't put the runs on the board in T20 cricket. But yeah, he's had a fantastic year uh, in T20I cricket, but also franchise T20s as well.
Nick?
Yeah, just another word on Patirana. It seems wild to me that he'd only played one T20I before the start of this year. So it's like kind of in his breakout year, which is just pretty mind-blowing. I'm going to throw Patham's name in for T20 player as well. He's hit 450s across the course of 2024, and he's struck at 137, which is a good lick above everyone else in the top order. And I think you can probably inflate that a bit given the kind of pitches Sri Lanka have played on at home at times. This has been a year where Patham made the shift from being an accumulator to a destroyer. I think the year where we really saw his full potential as a white ball player, where it became clear how hard he's worked behind the scenes. He's got shots all around the wicket. And yeah, a year which definitely changed my opinion on Patham Nissanka. And now he is one of the players in world cricket who, whenever he's batting, I really want to watch. And strike rate has had a big part to play in that. So yeah, Patham Nissanka for me.
Dom, who's your nominee for Sri Lanka's T20 Men's Player of the Year?
My nominee is Kusal Mendes, Patham's opening partner. Again, he's their leading run scorer in T20s, 572 runs. He's averaging 30, striking at 129, so just a tick under that 130 number. And as Nick acknowledged, not really great batting conditions, basically, the entire year from the Bangladesh tour on. And I think he's really stepped up. He's put together scores. He's got 350s. He was man of the series against Bangladesh, but he also has 340s as well. And I think, when it comes down to Sri Lankan batting performances, it's Patham and Kusal, and they dictate how this side goes. And they've done a good job of getting this team off to good starts. And if they can ever figure out how to finish an innings, they will be in good stead.
The fourth nominee for the Murali End T20 Men's Sri Lankan Player of the Year is Wanindu Hasaranga. He's obviously he's had a strange year, hasn't he? Because he started off as captain, and that kind of got taken away from him. Some would say he was a bit unlucky with the way it was taken off him. He plays a marauding style of cricket. That's the cricket that he brought to the team, even though maybe it was a bit too marauding. But in amongst all of that, he's kind of taken 34 wickets, and he does chip in with runs as well every now and again. Though I suspect next year he'll be trying to get more well known for scoring runs. This is the Murali end of season awards nominees shout out. If you want to tell us, you guys get to pick the winner, basically. So if you want to kind of leave us in the your thoughts in the comments section about whether we're getting things right or we're getting things wrong, do please let us know. We're moving on now to the women's T20 Player of the Year. Estelle, do you want to give us who your nominee for this is?
Yeah, I mean, there's only one straightforward pick when it comes to women's performances. I really, really tried to make a case for Kavisha Dilhari, but I'm sure she'll get nominated, but I'll go with Chamari Atapattu. Just looking at her numbers with the bat this year, she has 720 runs. That's almost 200 runs more than the next batter in the side, and striking at 126, 200s among in that 720 runs. She had a fabulous year. We discussed it in one of our previous episodes, how the Sri Lankan women's team almost had like a year of two halves, where they were extraordinary in the first kind of 6 to 7 months, and then had a poor run of things. In those first 6 to 7 months, she was the one who was leading the way, as she has done so for so many years, right? So she's been phenomenal with the bat, but also makes a really great case as one of the top all-rounders in the world. She has 21 wickets, averaging 16.8, striking at 15.8, and an economy of 6.36 in T20 cricket with the ball, right? She's I mean, a lot of overseas people would see her as more of a part-time bowler, but she's turned into one of those reliable all-rounders for Sri Lanka. So, I mean, it's difficult to look past her as kind of the number one nominee for this category.
Nick, who's your nominee for this?
We're talking T20, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll throw Harshita in. Obviously, that huge 69 not out in the Asia Cup final. And then she backed it up with a really good tour of Ireland, right? I think there was, 86 not out or 45 balls. And then another 50 in the next game, which she got her first franchise opportunity. And yeah, just a really good year for Harshita.
And Dom?
My nominee,
Who's your nominee?
is Inoshi Fernando. She's someone who has been around a while. She made her debut in 2014, but had only really played, 15 or so matches before this year. But with the decline of Inoka Ranawira, she played a much, much larger role, and she was by far their best bowler. In 21 matches, she took 20 wickets at 19.85, an economy of 5.83, and she was key in the power play in terms of taking wickets and setting the tone for Sri Lanka. I think her, obviously we pay a lot of attention to Chamri and the batting, but she was a key cog in a Sri Lankan bowling lineup that performed pretty well throughout the year.
So the fourth nominee is Kavisha. Obviously, she's had another kind of breakout season in terms of Sri Lankan women's cricket, like a whole host of them have had this season. There was some debate about who the most impactful player was in the Asia Cup final, whether it was Harshita or Kavisha. I think, though, undeniably, Kavisha is possibly the most entertaining player in all formats, across all genders when it comes to Sri Lanka to watch, because she's all action, right? She's always getting involved in things. She's getting wickets. She's and she's scoring big runs. And when she does get out, it's always in dramatic style. And yeah, I just love her eccentricities. And I really hope next year, or soon enough, she ends up playing franchise cricket all around the world, because she definitely deserves to. And her all-action, swashbuckling style deserves it as well. Guys, should we move on to Women's ODI Player of the Year? Estelle, who's your nominee for this?
Yeah, I'm going with Chamari again. She's had another fabulous year. I actually have some true numbers for her from ODI cricket since 2022. So it's a bit, it goes beyond this year alone, but she's basically scored the fastest, and is like the amongst worldwide, she's had the best strike rate at a pretty good average as well in ODI cricket. This year, I think probably last year was a better year for her in ODI cricket, but this year, if you look at the South Africa series, that's where she really, really shone for Sri Lanka, getting those runs in chases, the 195 we discussed in our previous episode about the top performances by Sri Lankan players was just incredible. The way she was striking the ball, so she's been great. But again, you have to come back to the bowling as well, because not only is she getting runs and being Sri Lanka's best batter, but with the ball she's pretty successful as well, not to the degree as she's been in T20 cricket. But if you have someone who's scoring, averaging 30 to 40 and also picking up wickets, or is your third best bowler, you take that, right? So, and she's been great with the ball as well. So yeah, another obvious kind of pick as a player of the year from the women's categories.
Nick?
Yeah, I am going to add Vishmi into this conversation. I think that this was the year, right, when Sri Lanka's long-term investment in Vishmi Gunaratne really started to bear fruit. I mean, it's wild to think that she's only still 19. She had a really good series against the West Indies in pretty spin-friendly conditions, right? I think she didn't make a failure 40, 50, and 44 across those three ODIs. And then she followed up with a pretty historic 100 in Belfast. I remember we were all watching it together. We were about to start podcasting, and we all kind of saw her bring up that landmark together, which was a really nice moment for me to look back on. The first non-Charmery 100 in any format for Sri Lanka, I think. She hit 3 sixes in it, which, six hitting for, again, players who aren't Charmery has been an issue for Sri Lanka. And it spurred Harshita to do the same a couple of days later. So, yeah, really good year for Vishmi Gunaratne. Really looking forward to seeing what she can do in 2025.
Dom, who's your nominee?
My nominee is the third woman to hit a ODI 100 for Sri Lanka. Harshita Samarakrama. She averaged 54. Again, they didn't play too much ODI cricket in the games, but she has that 100 and then 240s not out to kind of see the side over the line. Again, her improvement, her coming into her own has been one of the big storylines. And it kind of makes you think there is life after Chamre for this side in Vishmi and Harshita. People who can go and score hundreds, right? This is a big thing. If you have someone who can't just knock it around and score 20, 30 and then get out, but someone who can actually get you those hundreds, that is a big, big deal.
My nominee, again, is Kavisha as well, somebody who's been fairly consistent with the bat, especially because quite often she ends up having to bat with people who aren't really batters at all. And just kind of do her thing, and also has to kind of bowl a bit as well, which she has occasionally got some wickets in and been pretty solid, put some pretty solid performances in, though I suspect she's probably not going to win this because I think the other three have had better ODI seasons than she has. Should we move on, guys, to our... Do we do Newcomer of the Year and then we'll do Overall Player? Yeah. Newcomer. We'll do Newcomer of the Year, but I just realised we've got 5 people for this.
Who do we...
should I take Shiraz out?
Take Shiraz out. Yeah.
Right, so Newcomer of the Year. We've got 4 nominations. Estelle, who's your nominee for this?
Okay, so I'm going with Shashini Gimhani. Who is 16 years of age at the time of recording. She's just turned 16. She's made her debut for the Sri Lanka women in T20 cricket during this year. So 6 wickets, averaging 13.83, economy of less than 6 and strike rate of 15. Given the fact that the Sri Lankan women's team is pretty much settled in terms of the playing 11, she didn't get a lot of opportunities. But I did see her a lot behind the scenes, working with Coach Rumesh Ratnayaka. Obviously, really promising prospect because she, if I'm not mistaken, played an under-19 tri-series against England and Australia and was picked from there. Wrist spinner, left arm wrist spinner is a very rare kind of commodity, but she does bowl right arm leg spin as well. Can also bat left and right-handed. So kind of like one of those cricketers, rare kind of cricketers that you get. I'm told and I've seen in the nets that she can bat a bit as well, although we haven't seen her with the bat too often. So she should be a really interesting and, like a very exciting prospect for Sri Lanka because it's a unique kind of skill that she brings to the table and has shown a good temperament as well because she's had a couple of opportunities and hasn't really seemed that flustered. I mean, at 15, making your debut for national side can't be easy, but has looked really good with the ball so far. So I'm excited to see what happens in the next couple of years because it's going to be a bit of a transition for Sri Lanka, right? Because the Sri Lankan women, because they do have a couple of players who are likely to retire and move on. So should be an exciting couple of years to come for her. And she's had a good start to her career as well.
Nick, who's your nominee for Sri Lankan Newcomer of the Year?
I'm going to shout Milan Ratnayaka here. He did a bit of everything, didn't he, during the course of that England series? I still remember that first day at Old Trafford when Sri Lanka were down in the dumps and he started mowing Shoaib Bashir over his head to the long on boundary and made a really good 70-odd. I think still the best score by a test batter at number 9, was it? Or a test batter at number 9 on debut. He broke some record. Anyway, he worked really hard throughout that series. He took one of the great catches I've seen live at Lord's, and he grew into his bowling. He went from looking like very much a third seamer to being more and more threatening. He can swing the ball. He puts it in consistently good areas. And he's a bit of an all-round workhorse. I don't think he's going to be the first name on the team sheet when Sri Lanka play at home, but he's a useful player for when they're overseas in seaming conditions. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching him across the course of the summer. Milan Ratnayaka.
Dominic, who's your newcomer of the year?
My newcomer of the year is someone who technically hasn't made their debut for the Sri Lankan side, Eshan Malinga. And Eshan Malinga he's 23 years old, fast bowler. He won the fastest bowler in Sri Lanka competition and kind of came to fame that way. And, he's played domestically, but this year he really burst out into the scene. He had a fantastic tour of South Africa with the A side, and then he followed it up with a brilliant emerging Asia Cup, where his toe-crushing Yorkers were constantly clipped. And guess what? It ended up in an IPL contract. He was part of a bidding war, and the Sunrisers Hyderabad bid for him. He's also going to be playing with the Paul Royals in the SAT20 as well. So he's a guy who was brought into one of the Sri Lankan squads. He was brought into the, I think, ODI squad for the New Zealand series for that third game, but didn't get to play. I'd imagine a debut is coming very soon, and his rise kind of speaks to this moment we're in where Sri Lanka's pace stocks look better than ever.
I'm going to nominate another pacer, but he's really an all-rounder. That's Chamindu Wickramasinghe. He kind of was the player that came out from the kind of emerging young players at the LPL, got thrown in to make kind of various white ball debuts, though he kind of didn't really get a run at a team, mainly because of circumstances and what the pitches were doing. But he looks like he can bat a bit and he can bowl a bit. And we've been almost the story of Murali End has been where we're going to find a seeming all-rounder from, and suddenly it feels like someone's emerged and stepped into it. And, I know he's somebody that people in Sri Lanka, in and around Sri Lankan cricket, have talked about for a little while, but he finally feels like he's showing some of that potential. And hopefully over the next few years, we see him fulfill the promise as well. So he's the kind of fourth nominee for our kind of newcomer of the year. If you're watching, if you're listening, we want you to leave us a comment. Get in touch with us across social media. All the links to get in touch with us are in the descriptions of the podcast and on YouTube. And tell us who you'd like to nominate for any of these awards. The big one now, the overall player of the year. I think we've actually only got 3 nominees for this, according to my list. So I will let you guys all pick one each and tell us why this person has been nominated for overall player of the year. Estelle, you can go first.
Yeah, so the 3 people who are nominated are all three I've spoken about in my previous picks. I'll go with Kamindu as the number 1 pick. What a year it's been for him, right? 1,000+ runs. And most importantly, he's made difficult runs, right? And match-winning runs. He's performed in the UK, as I mentioned before. He's performed in Bangladesh. He got runs against New Zealand in Galle. So he's kind of had, I don't know, like the only way his year could have been better is if he had got 100 in South Africa. That's the only way it would have been better, because he's been so good with the bat. He's had a couple of cameos in limited overs cricket as well, but I think overall it's just the test performance that has been fantastic. It's very funny to me because, like, he obviously burst onto the scene as this ambidextrous bowler, right? And that's how he got his opportunities early in his career. He debuted in all 3 formats before this year, but actually he's a batter, right? He's a batter who he has this quirk that he bowls with both arms, and that's the thing that got noticed. But this year we've seen his actual talent is with the bat, right? And he's looked so good. Even in South Africa, I would say, like, he didn't get the runs that he has in the previous tours, but he looked really good with the bat. He looked confident. He looked like a guy. I mean, you wouldn't be thinking that he's in basically his first year of proper international cricket, like playing consistently. You wouldn't think that if you watched him play. So I think he's had a fabulous year. I mean, I know a lot of people refer to Pathum as Bradman, but maybe that title needs to be passed on to Kamidu.
Nick, who's your nominee? Is it the other Bradman?
It is the other Bradman, my boy, Pathum Nissanka. What a year it's been for him. Started off with that historic double hundred in Kandy against Afghanistan. I think he's been clearly the outstanding white ball batter for Sri Lanka across the calendar year. And he's also had a really emphatic, triumphant return to Test cricket. That performance at the Oval was just outstanding. 180 runs at faster than a run of ball across 2 innings, only out once. He marshalled a really tough chase. And then what a knock we saw from him the other day. I was critical about the way he went about his business in the first test against South Africa. And we saw a really different approach from him during that second test, right? When he made that 89, I think there were 2 scoring shots in his first 40 balls. He really dug in, got through that tough period against the new ball, and then kind of accelerated. And so it was just another sign of what an intelligent batter he is, how much he thinks about his game, how much he works on his game. I think we got a lot more to see from Pathum Nissanka, and I have to tune in every time he bats. Pathum Nissanka for me.
Dom, who's your nominee?
My nominee is the legend, the GOAT, Chamri Atapatu. I was thinking as you guys were talking, Chamri delivered victories for us in South Africa. That outstanding 195 is a knock that I will never forget. An absolutely brilliant piece of batting. One of those knocks that just captivates you, that you go back to and sometimes think about. She brought us the only title that we won this year, an Asia Cup victory. She was player of the tournament, and a very well-deserved player of the tournament. She was totally dominant, so good, and she inspired that team. She led that team from the front. I think Estelle has reported on this. Her growth as a leader has been something that's been exceptional. So obviously as a player, she's been brilliant. She's been brilliant with the bat, top scoring in ODIs, top scoring in T20s, among the world leaders in both of those formats. And then also as an all-rounder, she takes wickets, chips in with wickets, and she has set this team up on a path for future greatness and has changed, in my mind, in this year particularly, the face of Sri Lankan women's cricket and made it such that SLC can no longer ignore them and have to invest resources. So shout out to Chamri for being so good for so long, and we hope you get your richly deserved rewards wherever they come.
So that's that, guys. That's the nominees for the kind of Murali end of year various individual players awards. Let us know who you think needs to win what. Your thoughts. We want to you guys to interact with us as much as possible. We'll have polls running on the social media and all sorts as well. We'll be back very shortly with more updates from whatever happens in this New Zealand series, and anything else that happens to break in the world of Sri Lankan cricket. Thanks a lot for being with us. We're the Murali End. Bye.